that we don't let this go as deeper as it went back then. And also, as we speak right now, we have already lost a number of patients, especially from Mubende district and Kasanda. We've also sadly lost a few health patients, but also luckily we've registered some recoveries of our health workers and even ordinary Ugandans. But right now, the issue gets back here to Kampala. We know that Kampala is quite a very busy city. A matter of fact, it's kind of really, it has a high population. And the worry here is that when this Ebola infiltrates the Kampala population, I mean, how is it going to be for the ministry and everybody else to contain it? Already, as we see, we do have allegedly patients from Rubaga, we have from Makindye, we have from Seguku, amongst the few patients that they got positive, but we also have 7 members from the same family that came in contact with the late who was brought in from Mubende and died from Kampala. Now here, the thing is, maybe before we even get into the interventions that are being put in place by the Ministry of Health, and maybe I just want to also hear from your observations, do you think Ugandans are really taking this serious? Maybe to start off with you, Robert, because right now, like we did say at the start, we're still seeing people who are making jokes about it. We're seeing people who are still not very cautionary. I mean, the Ministry of Health has come out to pass warnings because Ebola is preventable for as long as you see the signs and you know them right at the start and you talk to the right people. But do you think Ugandans are taking this seriously, or we are waiting for it to really get to the extreme and we start running up and about?
Well, one thing, when I was growing up, they used to tell us the ears of a young child are at the buttocks. So caning was the order of that day. Because they would tell you, even if they speak, it seems you children don't hear. But when they beat you, that is when you listen. Now, there's a saying that some people's eyes are in their hands. Have to first touch. They may even see danger, and they're not seeing it. Unless they touch it, or it affects them. Some Ugandans, when experts speak and they have not witnessed actual death of a person they know, they may think this is not real. I told you in 2000, when we had this strain, we lost prominent people, and one of them is Dr. Matthew Lukuyawad. By then he was the medical superintendent of I think Gulu Olacho Hospital. So what does this mean? We've had cases, we've lost people. But even when you go back to COVID-19, Ugandans became very, very serious in the second wave, when they began burying their own. When they began knowing that my neighbor succumbed to COVID, my grandfather on this village, people they knew, the doubting Thomases, they knew now it was time. That's why you saw people now had masks, enforcement was a bit loosened, but people were ensuring they limit their movements. One will tell you, don't go out, you bring COVID and all that. So, that is one aspect. 2, even the previous handling of COVID-19, mostly when it comes to funds, has created some belief in some Ugandans that is this also another money venture. Because when you go out there, you still hear Ugandans who are thinking that maybe this is also another avenue for people to get money. That biased thinking and lack of trust sometimes in systems is also a challenge to many Ugandans, why they may not take this seriously. That's why I'm saying that those 2 factors, the fact that some of them will doubt until they have lost their very own, or a person they know, and they are very, very sure this person has died of Ebola, they have seen the signs and all that. And others are still in this thinking of politicizing everything that has led to many people believing now this is another money venture, the politicians are speaking. And what's still being with this this time around is that government and Ministry of Health have still failed to say this is the source of the virus. Because people have these questions, but it didn't come from, this person didn't come from Congo, this person didn't come from maybe a country. And they have not come out to explain to people that actually, yes, Ebola may not necessarily be that because it has been in Congo, someone will transfer it to you, and then we say this person was in Congo, like remember COVID,
Yes.
the first person had gone to Dubai to get savers, then he came with COVID, then we track and all that. That it may not be that, because Ebola could be harbored in fruit bats. You know fruit bats? These bats that eat, you know those?
Yes.
And someone can simply go to the fetch firewood, no village life. And if you eat a fruit, you know it's very common of villagers, he's passing through maybe sometimes these mangoes are fruit, and they find a mango half eaten or a fruit, then you just cut and eat. Because when they carry this Ebola virus, it doesn't affect them. Second, game meat or wild meat. Yesterday I had a sister who said she enjoys it very well, so much that also you can eat an infected animal.
But why are you saying that people have not been told? How then do you know?
Because I'm always, I mean, I read, I consult, I have these experts.
But I think that information is out there for people, unless they just don't
many
want
people believe that because they're not seeing that this first case had traveled maybe to, they say, no, how did it come from the blue for Uganda's case? So this is information that is also bring, because Philo is asking, why are we seeing that some, it seems we have a danger,
Okay.
but many people are not concerned.
Okay, now speaking of the communication, maybe, yes, we've had, because communication really entails a lot. What are you communicating? Which people are you communicating to? How are you communicating this? Now, when it comes to Ebola, the information that is being put out, Robert, in your opinion, what do you think the efficacy is? Are we passing on the right information? Or maybe we are not passing on all the information. We could be leaving out some of the information. Yes, a Ugandan, an ordinary Ugandan could be knowing that Ebola is spread like this, the basics, what we have seen on all these charts, what we have seen on all these flyers from the Ministry of Health and some health medics and all that. But I mean, are we leaving out some information? Because like you did point out here, there is some information that is known by people, by almost everybody, and there is some information that is known by a very small population. Do you think that is also a loophole in all this?
Well, I must say the way we are disseminating information, to me, is a wrong approach. You see, when you have such a challenge, this up to bottom approach shouldn't be what you use. You must use bottom up approach. What am I meaning? You must go down and begin communicating at grassroots level. Village health teams,
Yes.
village leadership is a priority. Not this, we are meeting the minister today, we are meeting the national task force, we are meeting. Kampala, once we go to Mubende. Right now, we would be that at every village, or at least 50% of the villages in Uganda. And for Kampala, we anticipate a danger to be very grave, that the local councils, there's a way they have been mobilized, and they have the right information. They have these megaphones, you know, they can go around and tell people we have a danger. This is how you prevent it. But you see, most of the times, we leave what is easier done and go what is harder done. Last time I saw Simani conference where I looked at people, I'm like, but people you're having, you expect to go back, they're not going to transmit this information. Basically, they aren't. So how do we use it? Is the local councils that know. You get it?
Yes.
This person came, but might have a, please communicate. Now, when we look at, let's have radio adverts, let's have TV adverts, let's have planning workshops, let's do this. Those are good, but they don't target the ordinary person. Actually, the people you speak to are very knowledgeable. They might be knowing so much, the elite, but how have you gone to the local people and penetrated them? It must be bottom up, not up bottom approach. That may not yield anything tangible in terms of reducing. That's why if a person lives in Mubende, comes to Chitemu, you know,
Yes.
sleeps there, stays there, goes at health center for gives birth, then you get to know after you see signs. Had this person died before going to hospital, how many people would be infected?
Yes.
A person lives, goes to Ruwero, visits a native doctor, then comes to Kirudu, changes names, because the systems that would enable easy detection are not what we have treasured. Money is flying in. We are now going here. We are now going here. We are meeting in this hotel, that hotel. How do we ensure that we have proper systems? We talk of village health teams, but let me tell you, these volunteers, they're also human beings. If you're having huge budgets for fuel, I see in these big guzzlers, we are now here, from here we are going here. How do you factor in these foot soldiers, facilitate them, equip them to ensure they deliver the right message, and there's a proper monitoring team?
Well, still speaking of Ebola here in Kampala now, it has been described as rapidly evolving, the virus. And I mean, it makes quite a lot of sense because the last couple of days we hadn't registered any patient. But now, looking at the total number we have right now is standing at 15 patients here in Kampala alone. Now, you know that Kampala is quite a very busy center. When we get to the downtown areas there, I mean, prior to the discussion we're having, Felix earlier on was saying now, if we look at our busy market areas, when we look at Chikubo, when we, you know where people are up and down, very busy. Yeah, I mean, what do we do for these places right now? Because right now it's very hard to tell a Ugandan, you know, you need to be very cautious while you're operating your businesses. Like we did talk about, people are still looking for money. We are still suffering and really bleeding so hard because of the effects of COVID-19. And now here is Ebola. So telling a Ugandan business person in these business areas that you need to sit this one out, you need to be very careful, is going to be hard. How do we get to interact with these people, in your opinion, for us to drive the point home, for them to understand and appreciate that, listen, this is a crisis we are having at hand and we need to do something about it?
For starters, we just have to be honest about what's happening. Sometimes the institutions who are in charge of health try to play smart to avoid mayhem, to avoid panic, to avoid anxiety. Sometimes they play safe. Like, for example, there are these languages they normally use. We have contacts, then what, you know. They're trying to be gentle and civil. But we need to be honest, Sometimes the best way of approach, mostly when it comes to lives of Ugandans, we need to be very, very honest. One, the dissemination of information is key because it is the only like weapon we have against every other disease that probably attacks us. Information. Yes. Because as long as we have the right information at the right stages, then we shall be able to fight this particular disease. But this virus, rather. You will talk about the issue of personal responsibility. For me, I think it is the most profound in this particular fight against Ebola. You notice that in as much as government can do the technical bit, the planning, the budget, the assistance, the information, but how do we deal with the information once it lands in our ears? Between you and me, today in Uganda, at least we're sure that certainly over 50% of the population knows that now we have Ebola. Yes. I don't know how they know, either by word of mouth or by advert, but at least we're sure that over 50% of Ugandans now know that there's Ebola, because as a matter of fact, there are even particular areas that are condoned off from the entire country. However, the response of the 50% in our own, the analogy we are using of 50%, how responsive, it is not even more than 10% towards avoiding the spread of COVID, of Ebola, of the Ebola virus. You notice that even if people have the information, are they willing to treat this information with that necessitated care or necessitated appreciation? That's a challenge. Now we must be answering the question, why are people not responding the way they are responding? One would say, is it because of the economic times, that regardless of what people are saying, but what do we do? Like people in Mubende and Kasanda, they were put in a lockdown. Now we are imagining that probably many people don't have food, people are sleeping hungry and all these things. But that should be the bigger worry for us who have not yet been put in a lockdown. Yes. To avoid it, I think today for me, my major emphasis will go to personal responsibility. Earlier we were talking about the things that we can do to prevent the spread of this particular virus. For example, time and again we must re-echo this. Now that we have children in schools, how do schools put in SOPs to prevent the spread of Ebola? We have they're called what? Day scholars who go home and come. How do we put in place measures? You get the point. We have people who use commuter taxis. Imagine 14 people in a taxi, you're sitting next to each other. Not that it's an airborne disease. You know, sometimes they sit even 5. I've seen in some, you know, some touching money. You touch money, you pay. All these things, people, these are things we should now, personal responsibility. Do we go back to sanitizing? Do you still have a small sanitizer? Sanitizer is all over. How often do you wash your hands? They may seem simple things, but they're only things that we have that are going to help us fight. These things, in as much as ministry will put information out there, information its own self is not going to stop the virus. You don't go into Robert. I think the information must be recepted, understood, and actually activated. And that's for me the plight, my plight to every other person listening. Let us start being conscious. Avoid shaking of hands. We must wash. Let's get back to system on washing hands. Do you have these things at every entry of offices? Do we have sanitizers? So, in terms of money, we should reduce these physical transactions. We can use the Airtel monies, the mobile monies, the Visa cards. Now there's Momo, there's Airtel Pay, all these things. Where we can, not necessarily that everywhere. Of course, when you go to markets, who's going to pay by Momo? But you can pay by. We must avoid. For me, I believe that in as much as governments have a bigger burden of duty, individuals in this particular one have a higher burden of duty to perform to prevent the spread of the Ebola virus. Individually, families take caution. SMEs, companies, workplaces, every other place. Taxi people, you get in a taxi, when you're paying this, have some sanitizer on you. Honestly and truly, we don't know where everyone has been. So I believe that on top of what government efforts are, the bigger effort is individuals.
Yes.
And from today, you need to know that this is something that is more life-threatening. Like he said, our fear is normally when we see things happening. But why do we have to wait for such to happen?
Okay, so, and I mean, we witness what has been happening. Yes, we've been witnessing what is happening in Mubende and Kasanda. And I will tell you that as people who are in Kampala here, we have been very comfortable. I mean, why are you comfortable? Because it's not like this
sounds
district.
It's far from you.
Yes, and I mean, these districts are in the same country with you, and we know how this spreads very, very fast. So the fact that we're too comfortable with that, again, it draws back to the personal responsibility that Felix is talking about. But Robert, maybe talking about Kampala and its readiness, especially from the authorities. We did have His Excellency, again, put Kampala on high alert the time he was giving the directives to Mubende and Kasanda. Do you think the authorities are actually ready for this? We have KCCA, which also has quite a major role to play in complementing the interventions that have come in from the Ministry of Health. Do you think that we have positioned ourselves, or we're still lacking? Okay, like right now, maybe we still have the pressures and the anxieties even from the authorities, which wouldn't be a good thing. All right.
I must say, Kampala, we are not prepared. And when His Excellency put us on high alert, I don't think anything meaningful was done. Why am I saying so? So yesterday, I was watching the Lord Mayor speak of a number of TV stations, and he gave examples and said we must come up with a clear roadmap that must be facilitated on how we are going to ensure that we put guidelines in place. Look at the enforcement of Kampala. Have you seen anything of recent that really these are aimed at promoting guidelines? You know, KCC has not come up with a clear roadmap to say this is how we are going to ensure that we fight the spread of Ebola. What is happening? Let me just take you back. When we had an alert over COVID-19, KCC authorities came out, gave guidelines, actually from His Excellencies, to these arcade owners, marketplaces, everywhere. Yes, they were faulted, but at least we saw that the authority is now out to act. I was looking at Mollen. That place, every time there is such an outbreak, it just runs into my mind, and I'm like, look how congested people are. The new tax park, at least things were different. I saw people washing hands, but that is within the taxi park arrangement. I've not seen an enforcement officer. I've not seen an active sensitization. KCC has what we call the public health department, and said by, I think, Dr. Okel or something. I've forgotten the other name. And it has even these vans. They are called film vans. They have speakers and all that. And they go out and sensitize people. So I think there is still lack of seriousness by the authority to come out and give clear direction, well knowing that KCA also has their health facilities. We have Chirudu, you have Chiswa, the number Chisenyi, all these. When you go there, I have not seen any meaningful guidelines put in place as preventive measures. In the schools owned by KCCA, one of the ways of detecting an Ebola patient, one, they have high temperature. Have you seen any temperature guns anywhere? Yeah?
Just a very few number of buildings, but even then you find the watchmen just seated with the guns.
Yeah, because if a person is coming in this room, in this particular area, and you sense their temperature is really high, because one of them is that continuous headache, high temperature, are the first things that maybe we can use. The headache we can't be able to, but the high temperature, you know, that these people have, at least we would see now temperature guns as a must. That every building, the authority, you see, KCCA has capacity to do certain things.
Yes.
I saw this in terms of pushing vendors off the streets. How you saw that they had enough manpower almost every corner, every division, you'd see what was happening. So where is their enforcement? Where is the public health department of KCCA doing sensitization? Where is this, at least at their health centers, that a person will pick from there and say, when I moved to Chiswa, when I was at Chisenyi, I saw that there is really something happening. So I want to believe and pray that authorities should wake up and also see what we can do even before a budget. You know, there is this issue of every time we need a budget, we need a budget. And there are things we can do before we get the budget. For example, the temperature guns we bought for COVID-19. I want to believe they are still in existence. And they are critical and crucial at a time like this. Unless you tell us they got spoiled or we bought. You know, sometimes government purchases have issues. Procurement, second-hand, fake and all that. But if not that, we would expect this. For example, the enforcement officers. This is their daily duty. I don't think, like I had a old mayor saying, financing, budget, and Dr. Okero. These are things, let's first do what we can do without money. Then bring on table reason why we haven't done certain things because of money. But I feel, like Felix said, it is now personal responsibility. You people, it is personal responsibility. And for those that own private institutions, arcade owners, let's also help the public. I believe some of these facilities could still be around, the washing jars and all that. Let's reinstate them. Let's have them. Because I'm very sure, if it is said in such an arcade, they have registered maybe this number of cases of people who have tested positive, I'm very sure authorities will first stop that arcade.
Yes.
You can't have an arcade and you have about 16, 20 cases in that particular arcade, and authorities are going to leave it to operate. So for you, schools, if you have a case in a school, they may not close all schools, but it may be hard for you to continue. First, the parents will fear sending their children to come to that school. So it entirely, much as government has responsibility, it entirely comes back to you. And the worst being when government says Kampala is overpopulated with this disease. We cannot continue tracking contact of contact. It is very expensive. Let's ensure we minimize the spread by minimizing contact of people.
Yes.
So that calls for lockdown. So at the end of the day, it's us to suffer, much as government has a responsibility, so we can prevent, we can do the needful and avoid such from happening.
Well, looking at some of the signs and symptoms of Ebola, well, I'll just mention all of them so that you are in the know. Now, there is a sudden onset of fever, you will experience a continuous headache. There is muscle pain. We are also looking at intense body weakness and also bleeding from body openings. We're looking at eyes, the nose, the mouth and ears as well. And then there is a sore throat, vomiting and bloody diarrhea or urine. Now, when you witness some of these or all of these symptoms, please make sure that you call the number 0800 10006. I will repeat that for emphasis. 0800 10006, and it's a toll-free number, so you don't need airtime, or you can always send an SMS to 8500. And again, the Ministry of Health has come out to warn against the fact that when you notice some of these symptoms, calling out a border man or anybody to help you out, that is not a health official. Clearly you're putting other people at a disadvantage, so they are highly recommending that you can only use a health or a medical personnel to help you when it comes to the transit. Now, also speaking of Ebola, yes, we know that it's quite dangerous, but tell you what, it's also preventable, and the only way you can prevent it is make sure that you avoid contact with anybody or with anybody that is showing these signs and symptoms. The moment that you notice this person is projecting some of these, keep away from that. The only way you can actually help is by contacting medical people to come and help out. Also, keep away from any burial of an infected person. Now, this is supposed to be conducted by a health trained team, and they know what to do. They know the right thing. Of course, even if it's your loved one, you just have to let it go, because we are trying to cut down the numbers. Now, also different ways in which Ebola can be transmitted. We are looking at a sharing of clothes, especially with a patient or a victim that exposes you to catching the Ebola virus. Now, soiled clothing of an infected person as well could be a way of transmitting the virus to you. Now, unsterilized equipment used by an infected person also opens you up to chances of being a victim. Handling wildlife, whether alive or dead, keep away from all these, because you don't know why these animals have died or what they've died from. And body fluids such as blood, saliva, fecal matter, vomit, urine and sweat of an infected person, all these are some of the ways the Ebola virus can be transmitted to an infected person to a normal person. Please stay vigilant, be cautious, get the right information from the right sources, and be on the alert, okay? And personal responsibility, once again, is entirely up to you to make sure that we beat this one as well. Good morning.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone, the most affordable smartphone in Uganda. You get to enjoy free 1 GB for 1 whole year. My Airtel 4G smartphone, your best value for money. Visit the nearest Airtel outlet today and get one at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week, we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. 1 is for construction of my house, 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
In the papers this morning, the Daily Monitor looking at banks speak on rising bad loans and, of course, looking at a nation in debt. A day after this same paper, the Daily Monitor detailed hundreds of properties that have been put for auction between January and June alone. The banks shine more light on the matter that threatens the country's financial sector and could make borrowing harder and even more expensive. Now, catch the details on that story in the Daily Monitor this morning. Government NUP supporters fight at Naduli Sands barrier, showing you the picture of what did transpire over there. And in the UK politics, Rishi Sunak makes history with UK Prime Minister win. Again, another detailed story that you can catch up in the Daily Monitor. Ebola cases in Kampala rise to 15. And falling fuel prices. Is it too early for motorists to jubilate? A question whose answers you can get in the Daily Monitor again this very specific morning. Now, today in history, fire guards Makerere Science Laboratory. The year was 1951. Also in history, first kamikaze attack starts World War II, 1944. If history is serving you right. And over 80 staff jobs up for grabs at Makerere, so make sure that you are one of the lucky fellas to grab that one.
Well, and in the New Vision, Kenya lifts ban on Ugandan dairy products. Well, President Ruto removes blockage that started in 2019. That's a story on page 3. And British Asian Sunak to lead the UK. That story is on page 30. But also in the New Vision, 3,800 teachers on payroll not licensed. That is on page 6. And corruption, IGG probes civil servant over shillings 15 billion illicit wealth. That is on page 12. Princess Anne to visit Uganda, and in the series, the horrors of the PWDs in Busoga. Now they also give you a picture right there. Probe Naduli's son's death, Museveni orders. And that is a story on page 9, but also more as Naro develops 4 new apple varieties. Get yourself a copy of the New Vision for more stories.
Daily Monitor Sports. Uganda face Zambia test the tournament, the 2022 Rugby Africa Women's Cup, in its second edition after the cancellation of the 2020 and 2021 editions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sun Cranes crash out in Egypt, defeats and Gaddafi plot bull ambush in Jinja Derby. And of course, this is under the Uganda Premier League, and also showing you the lineup of who is playing against who. Looking at the UEFA Champions League, Borussia Dortmund will hope their teenage forwards learn from former star Erling Haaland. The story is over there in the Daily Monitor Sports section. And Oilers turn attention to BAL, that is the Basketball Africa League. Well, that has been playing without representations from Uganda. Well, maybe we could be changing that story.
Now in the New Vision Sports, Nabanja to lead a fundraiser. Now Prime Minister Robina Nabanja will be spearheading a fundraising dinner that is looked at for operational budget requirements for the success of the East African University Games. Well, still looking at the East African University Games in Deje 2020 and more of the preparations for that. Kacheka goes to total waste. Well, looking at the state of the Kacheka War Memorial Stadium that has been for years moving from bad to worse. What is FUFA doing and government plans are falling through? That is a story in the New Vision Sport for today. They also give you a section of the well-maintained but not yet good Kacheka Stadium in the picture right there. And of course, that is at the heart of Mbarara City. They are crying for help. Inside the story, UOC is targeting students. There is more to that in the New Vision Sport.
The Daily Nation, how he died, and this is wanted in Pakistan for a sedition. He was a man of the run. Now, claims of assassination as police insist it was a routine operation gone terribly bad. And also showing you how it all went down. He was shot in the head, and more reports are giving you that. Now, 10 p.m. is the time around which sheriffs say to have been shot by police officers manning the roadblock on the road from Magadi to Nairobi. And for police, when it trains, it pours scrutiny on a force that seems to have gone rogue continues. Their reactions to this same story and giving you a full detailed police report on how all this went down. So grab yourself the Daily Nation to catch up on that and many, many more stories. Now, looking at the traffic this morning and focusing on some areas around central Kampala division, bringing it in all the way from Tinda, Nakawa, trying to make the routes all the way back to Kampala, starting off maybe from Nakawa, where I can really see the red lines that are quite dominant, showing how heavy the traffic is around here. And also areas like Chinawataka are not any different. Matter of fact, traffic is starting to build up over there as shown by the red and orange spots that have dominated most of that road. Now, if you decide to go all the way to connect to Newport Bay Road using the Chua 2 Road, which is actually very heavy with the traffic, I would advise otherwise. I would probably say maybe get another route, because this one already as it is right now is quite very heavy with the traffic. So maybe you want to look into an alternative route. Now, Ishmael Road is also very busy this morning and connecting you all the way from Newport Bay Road to the areas surrounding. I could say it wouldn't be a good idea for you, seeing as it is already having long stretches of traffic. Now, for the most part of Newport Bay Road around this area, I could say that the traffic over there is starting to build up in several parts, and as you also connect to areas like Spring Road, Luthuli Rise over here and here, you'll be expecting traffic as it is starting to build up, and these orange spots clearly show you that. Moving up all the way to Bandali Rise, it's actually quite a free zone area here without any traffic, so you could use this route to connect to Luthuli Rise if you don't want to be inconvenienced by any kind of traffic this morning. Spring Road, which again continues all the way to Old Port Bay Road, has quite some heavy traffic coming in from the 5th Street over here and continuing over here to Old Port Bay Road and 4th Street coming in all the way. You'll be expecting some traffic inconveniences over there, but at least for the most part of that road, I could say it is quite a free road for you, which would be an ideal shortcut for you to skip any other inconveniences. Moving on to 6th Street, it's quite a freeway as well. However, when you get onto this the same road around the part of Namongo, you will be expecting traffic over here, so maybe that would be an inconvenience you would be dreading this morning, but matter of fact, it doesn't stretch all the way, so you could be a little bit patient as you're trying to find your way around it. Now moving on to Access Road again, which takes you to the main road, I could say it's a free route for you this morning, so it shouldn't be a worry. Now, as I speak, clearly from the outskirts of Kampala, the traffic is still heavy over there, and people are still trying to get to town. So please be careful and look for the most convenient routes that can get you to town without having to go through any of that. And again, be very cautious on the roads because I mean, there is a lot of confusion. We have been seeing reports from police. Once again, people are still starting to get rowdy. I think after that footage that was released by Uganda police, there was a bit of sanity, but after the accident we did see on the expressway that happened over the weekend, we just urge you, I continue to ask you to be very careful, know where you're supposed to be, and make very smart decisions while on the road. Don't overspeed if you ought not to. Stay in your lane. One thing that Ugandans have failed to appreciate, they never know when to switch lanes. Well, make sure that you know where to be and how to drive on that specific road. I believe with that we'll be a bit more careful on the roads and reduce the numbers of accidents we are witnessing every other day that goes by. That's it from the traffic updates. I leave you now to Mollen to give us more on the weather and climate. Good morning.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. We're still talking more about COP27. Well, that is the upcoming summit, one of the highly anticipated UN climate summits organized by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and of course one that is talking about more on climate action. And what has been said, at least recently, is the fact that we are looking into loss and damage. The cuts that have been made in terms of targets for countries, are they enough? That is what we're about to find out in Egypt next month as world leaders also converge towards a similar cause. Now, you look at the interventions that have come before even COP27, right from the Glasgow Pact that happened last year in Glasgow, UK. And the resolution was to actually tape down the use of coal and, of course, abolishing fossil fuel use. But I think what we're seeing is a contradiction. It doesn't seem like world leaders have been taking that seriously because we're still on the same roundabout. But just last week, the European Union leaders did converge in a summit. And right now, what is coming through from that summit is that they have come out with 3 laws that are all aimed towards climate action. And one of those is actually, take down investments in energy. That is especially with regards to fossil fuels. That's one that we've been waiting for, especially with the EU, because we know that much of the investments within the energy sector have been coming from Europe. And of course, France also joins that league, as the French president, speaking at the summit, was also emphasizing that they need to look at those investments moving more towards renewable energy. That means they are looking at ways to invest more in renewable energy, in wind energy, investing more in solar, so that they can actually, hold on to their to their promises when it comes to their targets towards net zero, or even eliminating the global warming gases that we're talking about, the fossil fuel use, and a lot of that. But still, we're still looking forward to COP27, which is due to take place in Egypt next month, where world leaders will be convening to see what happens next. Now, we are already talking about climate change being on the political agenda, and of course we've seen politicians come out to say that this should be on the political agenda, and of course making more acclamations and advising the public on how we can adapt to climate change. But I guess some of the issues you cannot adapt to. Now, also earlier this month, we did look at the fact that, most of these developed countries that are responsible for creating more havoc or even bringing in more of these emissions into the atmosphere are saying that, okay, we can make compensations and make sure that these vulnerable communities are getting maybe financial help to deal with climate change. Now, we are not convinced that that will be happening soon, because even the pledges they made last year in Glasgow have not come through. So we do think that they will use the platform in COP27 in Egypt to actually make good on their promises, and maybe then we can look at a middle ground and a strategic way to put on climate action. Well, away from that, we also want to look at what is happening across the country for now. We will be tapping in from our satellites and over Uganda for this morning. We're looking at quite a sunny morning, yet another warm day, and of course sunny day, basically a repeat of yesterday. We're looking at mostly sunny weather for northwestern Uganda. Across the north, we're looking at the Karamoja region also starting off with mostly sunny weather, and a few clouds that are starting to develop across the southwestern part of the country, across Mbarara, across Kabale. We're looking at just a mix of clouds and sunshine, but also there is a rainy system that is starting to develop over the islands of Lake Victoria that will be bringing in rains only towards areas within the islands, but elsewhere we might be having mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine. We'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority and take a look at those numbers as well. We're dealing with mostly a warm morning. That is for the eastern part of Central, where we have Ruero, Woblenzi, Bururi, and Kaseke. Temperatures starting off at a hot 29 with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Southwestern Uganda, we are forecasting sunny intervals. Also, that will be starting off with a pleasant morning at 26 degrees centigrade. We do expect similar weather in the afternoon with mostly cloudy conditions coming through. Now, the western part of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe, and Rakai. We are forecasting another mix of clouds and sunshine. Quite a warm morning for you. We're looking at 27 degrees. The eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga, and Jinja, we're forecasting sunny intervals. Starting off quite hot as well at 28 degrees centigrade. We could be looking at the lower 30s later in the afternoon, because we do expect to have mostly sunny weather as the day progresses. Now we look at Mount Elgon Highlands, that is where we have Mbale, Bududa. We do have Buko and Sironko over there. We're looking at another warm morning for you as well at 28 degrees centigrade with a forecast of intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now across eastern Uganda, Soroti, Katakwi, Moria and Kumi, we're forecasting sunny intervals as well. Quite a hot morning for you at 29, also likely to get into the lower 30s later as the day progresses. And we do expect a continuation of similar weather even later in the evening. Central northern Uganda also starting off hot at 29 degrees with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Still similar weather is expected over there. It looks like it's going to be quite a sunny and hot day for you. That is across the central part of northern Uganda. The central part of the Lake Victoria Basin, that is where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We're looking at a mix of clouds and sunshine. Also starting off quite warm at 27 degrees centigrade. We do expect similar weather in the afternoon, although for areas that are close to Lake Victoria, we might be having a little bit of rains. And of course, that will also be over a few areas. We're looking at still warm weather for most places within the country.
And of course, with expectations of a little bit of light rain, especially across southwestern Uganda later in the evening, but the rest of the country, it looks like we are up for another warm and hot day across several places. Well, that is it in terms of weather updates for this morning. Later on, we will be going in for Good Morning Uganda agenda. And of course, after that, we'll also be looking into sports, after which we will be taking you to Good Morning Uganda Extra. Well, stick around. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I do want to wish you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by.
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Ballet dancers are known for dancing on the tips of their toes.
Tiptoe.
It sounds as if Anna and Jonathan are going to dance for us.
Thanks for going to my friend's art show last night.
Yeah, it was fun.
What did you think of her paintings?
They were, let's see, how can I say this? The paintings were, they had...
Don't tiptoe around the answer. You won't hurt my feelings.
Okay, they were terrible. I hated them.
If you tiptoe through a room at night, you are trying to avoid being heard. In conversation, to tiptoe around a topic is to talk about it carefully, to avoid hurting someone's feelings, or to avoid an argument. And that's English in a Minute.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800-100-066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Gold TV. Love it.
Welcome to Friends Stadium. Everybody's ready. Wait a second, not everybody. Come on, dude, it's the FIFA World Cup. You're going to lose your seat, the ritual seat, the lucky one. Losing more than a seat, your team is going to lose. Where are you, dude? The match is about to start. Your friends won't hold on much longer. Excuse me. Finally, everything is in the right place. Hey, other hand. And you, do you have everything you need to believe?
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It is exactly 8 a.m. here on Good Morning Uganda. It is 25th of October 2022, just a couple of days to the end of this very, I don't know whether to say wonderful month, but with a lot of things that are happening right now. But yes, we'll be coming towards the end of that month. My name is Philomena, and it is another great morning here on Good Morning Uganda. Welcome to the GMU agenda, where we ask questions and we get the answers from the right people. And of course, you can also be part of our conversations like every other day. Get onto our socials, get onto Twitter, hashtag is GMU, and let us know what you think about the topics at hand. For example, this morning we are going to be talking about mental health. Now, for the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about this, trying to make sure that we get our way around it, get the right information regarding mental health in Uganda, especially. We know that it is already a global problem. Very many countries have come in, and statistics are also showing that. Well, with me this morning in studio, I do have a gentleman who is going to be helping us throw more lights, give us some of the insights when it comes to to mental health. Well, I do have Kakinda Adrian Ivan, a counseling psychologist with Uganda Counseling Association and Chambugo University. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm exceedingly humbled. A very good morning to our dear viewers. My name is Kakinda Adrian Ivan, a counseling psychologist from Uganda Counseling Association. I'm humbled to be here this morning, especially when we are going to speak about mental health in our country. I'm very glad.
Thank you so much. And maybe getting straight into it, there is a lot that is happening right now. Now, one would argue, I don't know, could that be contributing to what, to the mental health of Ugandans? But before we get into all that, mental health is a word we have been throwing around, okay? And I believe there are people who understand what that is, but also there are people who probably use it generically. They don't know exactly what it means. Maybe you could start from there to shed more light on what mental health is.
I thank you very much. Very many people, when you talk about mental health, they don't differentiate mental health from mental illness. So mental health, like physical health, it's just your general being of your mental health, your mental faculties, or your mental, mental makeup. The brain, the mind, the emotions, the feelings. So generally your well-being, that's mental health. But mental illness now, it's pathological. It's the disease. It's the the challenges, or like we are illness. So when we talk about mental health, we are really talking about the general being of your mental faculties as a human being, your well-being. Are you functioning very well? Are you in your your real state of mind? Is everything moving on well in terms of decision making? Everything you're trying to do in your dear life. So that's generally mental health. So there is a difference between mental health and mental illness. So right here we are talking about mental health. Probably at the positive side, how do we, what's mental health and how do we keep it up there?
Yes.
But then we have when we have the other side of mental health challenges or issues or illness. Illness now is at the extreme, where things now become psychiatric.
Yes.
You need treatment, so we shall reach there. But today we are talking about mental health, and it's just the neutral point.
Okay.
Yeah, from mental illness challenges, but we are talking about mental health, and probably that's why we are always advocating for, shedding off the stigma.
Yes.
Yeah. When you talk about mental health, there is no health without mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we all function around that, and I love the fact.
And I always say that the mind is the central processing unit, borrowing the analogy of the computers of a human being. So if the central processing unit is not operational, then it means nothing is going to be operational at your side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for the clarification. Mental health, mental illness, these are two different things. I've had a couple of Ugandans where they mean to say the person is actually having maybe some mental illnesses, but the word that they put to use is actually mental health. Now that we have clearly defined what that is, maybe you could also take us, what's the relevance, what's the significance of mental health? Why does a Ugandan, an ordinary Ugandan, ought to know about mental health in general? Why do we need to prioritize it at a given time like this?
Yeah, we are at a point whereby very many issues troubling Ugandans are rotating around mental health. Yesteryears, we were talking about physical health very much. In primary health care, we're talking about malaria, we talk about the 6 killer diseases. That has changed. Today, we are talking about mental health because, anyway, even in our country at large, we have very many life stressors. We have various challenges from our childhood experiences that we are suffering from, and this has taken a toll on our mental health. Now, it means if you are looking at the productivity of the population, you have to start from the mind. Now, when you talk about mindset, when you talk about all the challenges we see in our society, behavior challenges, addiction, substance use disorders, marriages are failing, relationships are failing, education is bringing pressure to young people. Everyone, no one is immune against mental health challenges. So that's why if the country is serious on the productivity of its population, it has to focus really on more on the mental health, wellness of these people. But now we are talking about our country whereby we have few attention. The priority wasn't there yet until of recent, now that people, the stakeholders, you, the media, the stakeholders, like the policy makers, we in academia, we are trying to come up and now start chest thumping, trying to advocate for mental health in this country.
Yes.
But when you go down to the treatment level, you realize we only have one mental referral hospital just here in Utabika. So another few psychiatric units in those referral hospitals.
Yes.
We have various private practitioners giving treatment to mental health issues. And this, for the Muntu cannot manage the money that you, for example, in a rehab, to rehabilitate you of alcohol. It takes like a minimum of 7 million in 3 months. So for the Muntu it really doesn't. The affordability is very zero.
Yes.
So you realize it's high time. Our population is really suffering from these issues. And that's why if we are going to move forward, actually for you who is viewing me right now, you must be going through something troubling your mind right now. If it's not anxiety, it could be depression, it could be stress. Then if things are moving too much at your side, that's how you hear young people killing themselves.
Yes.
Because they don't have the coping skills whenever they face life adversities at large.
Okay.
So it's quite very important, and we cannot bury our heads below the sand and we pretend as if we don't see what's happening.
Okay.
Most issues right now, it's mental health.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, as today's discussion is going to be dictated upon addressing challenges and threats of mental health, maybe we could address straight the threats. We could get into the threats right now as we're speaking this year, 2022. Adrian, what do you think are some of the threats when it comes to mental health? The things, the situations. I don't know. What would you consider a threat for anybody out there, for our viewers, to actually point them out and know that this one could be a very major one when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. When you look at the most etiological reasons as to why people are mentally disturbed, the leading cause would be poverty. Poverty rotating around unemployment, lack of jobs, anyway, generally lack of money.
Yes.
Only that is enough to shoot you to mental health challenges. Because look at our population is young. I think the average age of our population is 26.3%.
Yes.
Meaning Uganda is having a very young population. Now this is the foundation of the tomorrow's Uganda. So we are looking at these young people, and most of their challenges are we don't have what to do to bring in money in our pockets. Now, the demands of life are not changing vis-a-vis the inadequacy of finances. Now, the issue of unemployment and lack of money and economy, this one is one of the leading cause of mental health challenges in this country. So as the country is the government and everyone stakeholder is grappling with how do we help these young people and the country to build its economy for the people to come into the money economy, that one is quite a critical reason as to why people are mentally sick. Because one, you are anxious. And this was even escalated by the influx of COVID-19. COVID-19 had a lot of issues to us, so it was just amplifying the already challenging economy, challenging population. So if you're not anxious, anxiety is fear of the unknown. Fear of tomorrow.
Yes.
What's going to happen tomorrow? Today I have lunch. Will I get dinner? Today I have the dinner. Will I get the food next time a day? Will I take back my children to school? Will I, when my mother in the village, my grandmother in the village calls me for just 20,000, can I be able to deliver? So all that, it creates anxiety. Then it stresses too much because of the demands.
Yes.
Depression is now actually the last point for someone to think of committing suicide. So to me, it starts with poverty as the leading cause. Then to the life, our childhood traumas, the childhood experiences.
Yes.
Now we have very many young children who have gone through a lot when they are growing up. Now reaching at our level, you know, the past is now determining how they behave and how they cope up with life.
Yes.
So that's quite also challenging, and you realize that most of the challenges we are going through right now have their roots from the childhood. Now, especially the people who are growing up from dysfunctional families. The dad is absent or the mother is absent. Those children, their mental health is quite challenged.
Yes.
And you know, in our country, people think children are not mentally challenged.
Because the conversations we are always having, we are looking at maybe the young adults, we are looking at the old people, and somehow we've excluded the young people. We believe that they're mentally stable and to take in all that is happening around them.
I'll give you an example of when a young child loses a beloved one. 6 years, loses a beloved one. The mature people will go for counseling sessions, grief and trauma counseling sessions, to overcome this pain. But you realize that they forget the young child. Now, I have a client in Mukono at a very 7-year-old child, a girl, lost the mother, and the loss wasn't really managed very well in this child, so she got post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD. In getting PTSD, he developed another kind of behavior which was really abnormal to the schools in terms of going to the latrine. She doesn't want to go to the latrine. So P6, P7, she doesn't want to go to the latrine. For her, she goes behind the what? The latrine. So whenever they find that, you know, behind the latrine, they realize, but this could be done by the babies, not this mature lady. So they had to beat her, you know, expel, do what, they harassed her, etc. It didn't work until this girl reached senior 2 and they brought her to the counseling, to the counselor, who assessed and realized this girl was having trauma, and trauma was rising from the death of the mother. And when she explained, she said, no, for me, I can't go to the latrine because I cannot defecate on my mother. So why? Because this hole resembles the grave they put my mother when I'm seeing. And the dad was surprised that this kid had not moved over 8 years down the road, moved with the death of the mother. So very many children out there from dysfunctional families, you know, we're having families out there which are dysfunctional. Families, single mother, children-headed families. All these families are causing mental health challenges to our young people, and we must be very careful. That's why these days we are advocating for, now that children spend most of their time at schools, schools should now start employing professional psychologists or counselors or mental health professionals. Gone are the days when teachers could do that. We've overburdened the teachers. A teacher is trained to teach, not to treat, not to assess mental health challenges. Some schools, I'm happy with them, I've taken it off, and they have employed those people. Because you cannot teach someone who is mentally disturbed. You're just lying. Actually, you're like washing utensils and putting them in the dust. So very many schools are overpumping our children with material, and you know, the competition
absolutely
of the results.
It's very,
now.
very intense.
So academic pressure has also caused mental health challenges, and that's why in this week in the new vision I wrote, actually last week on Friday, you must have seen that headline, that we were warning on nursery education. The modus operandi of the nursery education and the amount of the pressure put on our children is going to break them down. So by P5, your kid will be telling you, Mom, I'm tired of studies. And then you get surprised.
And this is just primary 5 when they still have a long
journey to go. Because their mental health cannot cope with the pressure they are going through because of the world, you know, and competitions. So early childhood experiences, most of the traumas people are having. Some are harassed, abused sexually when they are growing up. They are raped and they keep quiet. They bury that kind of experiences. It comes back in the future. You know, you have your friends, you keep on pressurizing. Why don't you get married? I don't want men. Then you wonder, why? What happened with men? Are all men the same?
They have a story to tell. The trauma is there, but we just don't appreciate it.
Have you tested all the men in the world, over 2-point-something billion men? No. But someone didn't heal during the early childhood. So parents out there and caregivers out there, let's always care. As you care about your mental health, you as an individual, the grown-up, children too are suffering. That's why children today are also committing suicide.
Well, we're talking about mental health and how to address the threats and challenges over here with Adrian Kakinda Ivan, who is a counseling psychologist with Uganda Counseling Association and Chambogo University. Now, speaking of this is a harsh reality we have already seen. But in your view, do you think Ugandans have come to terms with this? Do they believe that this is actually something that's happening? Why do I ask this? Recently, earlier on this year, we did see, I'm pretty sure you saw the article in New Vision where we did see that about 14 million Ugandans have mental illnesses. Now, this was mainly because they were there, but they were catalyzed by COVID-19.
Yep.
Now, one would ask, are you trying to say that we did not have issues before COVID-19, mental illnesses? And if they were there, is it a reality or is it a fact that we don't pay attention to this? Maybe because of, you know, how, I mean, there is a lot happening around you. Before COVID, after COVID, one issue after another. So do you think that Ugandans they are tone deaf to mental illnesses, or they see them but maybe they don't have anything to do about them?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's quite a very amazing question. Recently, before COVID, Ugandans were suffering from two things, issues here concerning mental health.
Yes.
One, mental illiteracy. Someone would have depression and people would say, because of our cultural embedments and contexts, as they say, it's witchcraft. Or someone will tell you, no, you know,
oh yes, that is very common.
Can you get depressed here in Uganda? No, not really. But the mental health issues have been with us since time immemorial, whereby for us, we were thinking maybe it's not happening. You get headache, you don't understand the cause of headache. The cause of headache is psychological, but for you go for tablets. Meaning the psychological issue has not. I've always told people that when you see a country where the comedy industry is on the rise, that country is suffering from mental health issues. Because by the time you pay to laugh, meaning
it's an indicator.
Because laughing is an emotional indicator. It's a positive emotion. Laughing should happen. When I came in, I had you asking your colleague, why are you laughing? Of course, today the country has few avenues to laugh.
Yes.
That's why people pay money to go and laugh, to get that feel, that soothing emotion that, you know what. So that one is an indicator that we are sitting on a time bomb of mental health issues. Actually, as Uganda Counseling Association, when we were protruding that information in the New Vision, like 14 million people, very many people came out and said, you know, guys, that's an understudy.
Yes.
14 million is not enough. Perhaps everyone could be mentally sick.
Because they were saying these are statistics that were collected maybe in 2019.
Yes. Now up to here now. So what we are doing currently is we are trying to create mental health awareness for someone to know, okay, if I'm feeling so and so and so, I'm not physically sick, I'm mentally sick.
Yes.
So we want people to reach a level of you feeling yourself and say, no, what's aching on me is because I lost a relationship. And how do I cope up? So A, B, C, D. So we want the population to reach that level, not to quash that, no, those things are for Bazungu, what.
They're the ones who go for therapy, they're the ones who go for counseling. It's just not for us Africans.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the key issues we had. Not that people, our people didn't know. They won't tell you what is stress. And some people are still boasting around with their mental health issues. You come to a friend and a friend tells you, leave me alone, I have my own stress. Then you ask yourself, is stress something good to boast around? You know, so you realize that the population out there were more illiterate when it comes to mental health. Now that is changing. I thank you, the media, because you've really played a big role in educating Ugandans that, you know what, guys, we have this issue. It's not only even in Uganda. World Health Organization had ended releasing reports on mental health globally actually it was 20 years ago. I think that was 2002. Now this year they came back with a report, now realizing that mental health is going to be one of the leading cause of death in 5 years to come, whereby someone is depressed and commits suicide. In Chambogo we lost 4 students only this year to suicide. So what explains to that? Are you still saying it's bewitched? you know, our culture.
Yes,
yeah,
we
and
do
how
have
we
those
take,
culture beliefs where
and how we take people who have committed suicide. We know it's a misnomer, it's a misfortune in the family. But have you tried? People are using social media today. Are you mindful of what they post? Someone says, this world is not my home. And no one cares. After someone ending his own life, then you come up and screenshot, he said this a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Do people normalize checking on friends? Hello, how are you? How are you doing? Why are you too quiet? Are we mindful of the change in behavior of our people? Philomena was talkative. So what has happened?
Yes.
Why is he silent these days?
He's drawn back. And
he's drawing back, he's isolating. What's going on in their dear life? So everyone is on his or own. People are no longer caring. People are no longer social beings. Actually, I think technology has also done more harm than good.
Yes.
You visit a friend, 2 minutes, the friend now turns to the phone.
Yes.
You're sitting there on your phone, I'm sitting here on my phone.
And you're visiting me.
But I visited you.
Yes.
Then you wonder, why did I visit you? So that's how our society is now moving on with these issues. But now, the good news is people are starting to appreciate mental health. Those who don't appreciate, they just choose not to appreciate, but they know. And with COVID brought mental health issues at every doorstep of a Ugandan.
No.
Yeah, everyone tested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, while we are on the social spectrum, I would really love to know, as a society, do you believe that there are certain contributions that we play when it comes to mental health issues or mental illnesses? And some of these anyway, maybe we could start from, are some of these mental illnesses born with us, or do we acquire them along the way? And if it is the latter, does society play again a role in contributing to this? Because we have seen things like social media. This has been pointed out to be among the top things.
It's an enabler.
It's an enabler. So could you say that we as society, we are also playing a big role? But maybe you could start from the start.
Yes. Side. Okay. Some mental health issues or illnesses have a genetic element. Those that turn to psychiatric, the elements of schizophrenia, so those are psychiatric. And maybe to help our people understand this, that when it comes to mental health treatment, we have three major players here. The primary role, the primary mental health service is given by a counselor or a social worker. And then the second line is a clinical psychologist. Then the extreme is psychiatrist. So those three. So by the time you go to a psychiatrist, it's medical now.
Yes.
So that's where you get prescriptions of drugs, etc. Psychiatry, because psychiatrist is the medical doctor. But clinical psychologists, social workers, counselors and counseling psychology, these are psychologists. They deal with behavior issues and psychological issues. So that one should be understood very well if you are going to seek for a service. But research will tell you that some mental health issues are genetic. Even some behaviors are genetic, have a genetic element. For example, when it comes to alcohol addiction, the country is troubled with addiction to substances.
Yes.
So you may dig deep and you realize that in your lineage, you have that problem of alcoholism.
Yes.
So as we are dealing with it right now, but there is that element or a percentage of genetism which we also need to study and deal with. And chances are that you may pass it on. You may pass on that trait to the next generation and over years. But to a large extent, most mental health issues are caused by lifestyle. Our lifestyle in this country or in Africa, and there's situations from the political side, from the social side, from the economic side. All those things we do in our society are enablers of mental health issues. I gave you an example already for those who have been listening, viewing, that for example, when you look at the economic landscape of our country, you agree with me that situations, it's hard economy. The economy is trying to recover from the
COVID-19 pandemic. Yes.
That one alone is an enabler. That however much you can become resilient to situations, but economy alone, because you're not immune,
yes,
you are going to be troubled. Now that's society. Then we come to social well-being. Now I'm talking about relationships. People are killing others because of relationships. Relationships today are not working out. We have very many single mothers. We have very many single fathers. We have now, plus even the diseases, some chronic diseases are also causing mental health issues. Actually, hospitals must have professional counselors, professional psychologists to deal with, to help these people heal. For me coming to you and telling you, you know what, you'll be okay, don't worry. At your sick bed, it's enough to give you some sense of hope. I'm talking about psychological capital.
Yes.
So most of the people viewing right now, their psychological capital is being challenged. Psychological capital, these are 4 pillars: hope, efficacy, resilience, optimism. Those 4. Now, whenever a challenge comes to you, it challenges that capital. Just like the business capital.
Yes.
We lose capital every day, you may hit your capital and the business collapse.
That's true.
Now, every day, whenever we are moving, today I was coming in the morning and you could read the faces of the people walking on the streets of Kampala, gloomy faces.
Somebody say that if you want to know how bad it is, you look at people in their cars.
Exactly.
Okay, you'll see somebody in a Porsche car, but the facial expression tells a totally different story. They're really withdrawn. The thoughts seem to be very far. Clearly showing you that much as I'm here in this car, in this traffic jam,
And
there
yet
is
for
a
you-
lot I am worried
and yet for
about.
you, you're admiring them.
You're admiring. Like, I wish I would be in that car. I wish I would be that woman or that man, but there is a lot happening.
So to answer your question, society, 85% has brought these issues. And now the trick here is one. There is no life where we shall not have challenges. I think since times of Jesus Christ, everyone, we've got challenges in life. Now the trick is one, knowing how to cope. And that's what we are telling our people, that can you know that this so and so will disturb my mental health faculty. Now, how do you cope?
Yes.
Because coping by taking substances, coping by becoming addicted, by becoming self-destructive behaviors, that's not coping. That's not coping. Some people say, you know what, for me I have very many problems, I take alcohol to sleep. But alcohol, that's a painkiller. You've not solved the problem.
Yes.
By the time your alcoholism ends, the problem would have multiplied by 3 the next day. So what we are informing the public, know that these issues exist, face them, because you cannot run away from problems, and change your mindset towards the whole lifespan. There are some people whose mindset are really stuck, thinking that life will be smooth. It can't happen.
Okay.
It can't happen. Even the person, I think we would admire the president, right?
Oh, yes.
But if you get a chance speaking to him, he will tell you, I'm also stressed. Probably maybe to keep my seat. Anything.
Yes.
So if the highest office holder is also having mental health, is challenged a bit, and actually it's normal to be challenged mentally. It's quite normal. So that's what we are looking at, that coping. How do we cope?
Okay.
Yeah, but because we cannot be in this situation. Now, this week you've been broadcasting these young girls coming back, repatriated back to Uganda.
Yes.
So how do you think they are now so they're going through a lot? They must be going through a lot, and they need help.
All right.
Because one day went thinking that they are going to get green pastures out there. Now they were arrested, now repatriated to their country, stuck.
Well, addressing the threats and challenges to mental health. Now, there is one thing before we get to the final conversation on how we can deal with all this. One thing we just need to talk about as an independent component, that is stigma. Now, I would really love for you to shed some light on the implication of stigma to a society that already has patients with mental illnesses, or to a society that has prospects, or to a society that has people that have the right information. What implication does stigma have on a society like that?
Yeah, stigma blocks mental health uptake or treatment uptake in society. Because one, we always tell people, normalize going for a mental health checkup, just how you go for an HIV test. Going for an HIV test doesn't mean you're HIV positive.
Yes.
So there is no need of stigma, but I know stigma was coming from the illiteracy I was telling you about here, that people didn't know. They were ignorant about mental health issues. Up to now, there are some who are ignorant, but there are some society now is trying to wake up and say, okay, Parliament, the other day, Honorable Geoffrey Macho was challenging parliamentarians.
Yes.
Half of you are mentally
You're not
sick.
mentally
They say, no,
okay.
you're not mentally sick.
Yes.
So you realize that when you talk about mental health, people think you are not okay upstairs. But it could be normal. Actually, we are telling people, can you do assessment in a 6 months assessment? Even if you think you are normal, go for that assessment. They can diagnose that you have some elements of depression, elements of anxiety, and you treat yourself. So stigma doesn't help society. It blocks the uptake of mental health services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stigmatizing, and we have a society that is full of people who stigmatize.
They make fun of you.
Well, yes, when you get to social media, it's very absurd, I'll tell you, Adrian.
Because in our society, we've grown up, when someone does something deviating from what's normal, we normally say that one is mad. So mental health doesn't mean madness. Yeah, doesn't mean madness.
Okay, now for a person who really wants to help, in our circles, it could be in a family circle, it could be in a friendly circle, or even a workplace circle. Maybe you could just take us through some of the changes or some of the signs that I could really point out if I wanted to help. I mean, someone, what do I look out for? What are some of, you know, the red flags that I could notice and maybe understand that this person is not doing right, and how do I help them?
Yeah. Thank you very much. We've always talked about what we call psychological first aid. Now, this starts on the level of, you know, understanding and reading the ultimate change of behavior of your colleague at the workplace, of your friend in the family. For example, you can read, is someone isolating? As someone, as an individual, have you lost interest in the things that you used to enjoy? That ultimate loss of interest. Are you isolating from your peers? Is everything annoying you? Are you worried about what the future brings to your side? You know, all these are red flags. To the workplace, the bosses, do you read a change in productivity of your employees? And for you, you just blame them of being indisciplined. But do you sit down? Do you have that time to sit down with these employees and understand what's going on in their dear lives? You know, we have to be really mindful of people's well-being, especially when it comes to mental health. Because mental health, sometimes it's hidden only until you become literate enough to understand that the change in behavior, that one is a tip of an iceberg. Someone is sitting on problems which are really troubling them, and they need to be addressed. So all that change in behavior, absenteeism at workplace, repetitive absenteeism, someone is, you know, is absent-minded. Even during, you know, work, these emotional brawls, the fights at work, can be as an indicator or a red flag that something is going on behind, you know, it's going on at the back of the minds of these people. Then at home, the mom, sorry, the wife and the husband, do you read a sudden change of behavior? Someone is saying, I'm having sleepless nights. I don't sleep, I'm having amnesia. No, I'm having insomnia.
Yes.
Then those people who oversleep also. You're not pregnant, but you're oversleeping, hypersomnia. So those sudden change, someone who used to feed well doesn't feed, overweight, or the opposite of overweight is, you know, underweight.
Yes.
Someone is adding on weight, you're asking them, what's up? Someone said, but I'm stressed, but I don't know where the weight is coming from.
Yes.
So you realize that all those sudden changes are red flags, which we need to be mindful. Then what people post on social media.
We still have a very big problem with social media, even with the new computer misuse.
Yeah. Now let me tell you.
Yes.
85% what people post on social media. You know, for example, Facebook asks you, what's on your mind? So 85% what people post on the social media, they're talking about their own life.
Yes.
They always tell you, I have a friend, so and so, so and so, but they're talking about themselves. They are the friends. Therefore, colleagues and the country out there watching, be mindful of what people are posting on social media. Actually, we've realized that the quality of social media in a country is a true depiction of what people are going through in that country. People are grappling with now, they brought the Computer Misuse Act. Why? They have not addressed the problem.
Yes.
They have not addressed the problem. Why are people ranting on social media? Why are they using abusive words?
There is a source for all this anger. There is a source for all these chaos.
Did they deal with the anger? No. So meaning, if you don't deal with this anger, people will look for another avenue to explode. So I don't think people would love to see people exploding in another way.
Okay.
So they don't manage. So our country is still having issues of articulating problems very well, but when it comes to solutions, they try to they don't hit it straight.
All right.
Yeah. So that's one of the challenges. But coping, exercise, prioritize self-care, love yourself first. Yourself first. Love yourself. You have some money.
Somebody will ask, how do I love myself? Because again, this is a question I've come across. I mean, it's a gospel we have been preaching every now and then, but how do you do it? Like, how do you get to
by
appreciate
prioritizing yourself?
Yes.
Philomena, don't think that someone is coming to give you happiness. No one is coming. Actually, you are the CEO of your dear life. So you have powers to fire and hire friends around you.
True.
So meaning you have to first prioritize yourself. When you have some money, go and give yourself a treat. If you've achieved something in your dear life, appreciate yourself. In COVID, we invented a butterfly hug because we weren't supposed to hug people.
Yes.
You do this. Adrian, you've done a good job. You hug yourself. You feel good before thinking of other people. Now, firstborns there, you are becoming, you're heading families.
They're the assistant parents.
Exactly. You have a bad issue, but you are giving other people good life. When are you going to cater to look after yourself? We live once with the physical bodies. So most of the issues are because we don't prioritize self-care. So eat well if you have the,
the capacity.
Yeah, the capacity. Self-care. Have good friends around you. All these are coping mechanisms. Before you come to us, the counselors, psychological first aid. Check your friends, because your friends are board of governors in your life. So check your friends. Are they toxic, narcissists, pessimists? Leave them if they can't change. You have a friend who is always saying it can't be, it won't work, you can't do this, you can't do that. Leave them.
Yes.
Leave them. So look for friends who are optimists, friends who challenge you to become good. And when you say leave friends who are pessimists, some people are going to leave friends who challenge them to become the best version of themselves.
Yes.
But have friends who really matter, who really construct you, not friends who are always going to say, let's go and drink, let's go and party. Friends who challenge you. And don't have friends who are too far from you. They will cause mental health issues still. They will cause you pressure.
Anxiety.
Pressure,
yes.
How am I going to live there?
Yes, how do I match up
and
to
lastly,
that standard?
Regardless of your religion, pray. There is power. For us counselors, we do say, we treat, but it's God that heals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kakinda Adrian Ivan. He is a counseling psychologist with Uganda Counseling Association and Chambogo University. Well, self-priority is very key. Make sure that you look after yourself. Like the common saying goes, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you need to make sure you are stable to help out other people around you. And again, stigma is not a good idea. Social media, be on the lookout. And again, like a normal Ugandan, you need to be a little bit more observative when it comes to the people in your circles. It could be your family members, it could be your workmates, it could be your friends, it could be some other people you see but you don't have a relationship like that, but who knows, you could be a source of help. We are talking about mental health, and we need everybody to be okay mentally. We need people to be able to function, to process their thoughts, to process their actions, and all that comes with having a very stable mental health. Good morning, Uganda. I'm Philomena Mastiko.
Welcome to Friends Stadium.